Welcome to Real Estate for Everyone with Kristina Smallhorn. Today, we're digging into the surge of foreclosures and what it really says about the state of the home affordability in our country. People are getting squeezed from every direction, and the numbers are finally showing it. Joining us with Kristina, Tim Street, who teaches homeowners how to sell on their own and keep more of their equity instead of watching it disappear. Stick around because we're breaking down exactly what's happening and why it matters to anyone trying to buy or hold on to a home right now. To you.
Fantastic, Eddie. Good job. We're trying something a little different today. I have Eddie now doing the announcements. I got the feedback from you guys telling me to not let Eddie putting the articles on the screen. I will be doing that now because I yell at him too much. So, and today we do have a special guest, like Eddie mentioned. I have my friend Tim Street. He teaches people on his channel on how to sell your house without using a real estate agent. So, we're here to help you. Eddie, who is jamming the music out. I do want to say hello to Bunny Bun. I want to say hello to Sarah, King in the City the First, Lawnmower, Susan, Suanne, I'm sorry, SB, and King in the City the First again. Hello, my friends. Hello, my friends. We're going to be talking about what's happening with foreclosures, which states are going to be foreclosing, and what this actually means for you if you're trying to find an affordable home here in the area. But without further ado, let's go ahead and have my guest on tonight. Let's see, Mr. Tim Street. Yay!
Hey,
Eddie did some applause for you there.
Eddie, I appreciate that. I feel so welcome now. Without that, I was about to crumble. So thank you, Eddie. I appreciate that. Hi, Kristina. Hi,
hello, friends. I told them a little bit about your channel. If you want to give anybody in the audience a little bit further details about yourself, go ahead and do it now.
Yeah. Hey, pleasure to meet everybody. And just real brief, I am Tim Street, aka the FSBO guy. I am a licensed agent, so is my wife, so are my best friends. So before we get any misconstructions here, I think real estate agents play a super valuable role in a lot of transactions, especially the complex ones. I exist to help people like my parents or folks who have really fallen in love with the DIY concept to take this on their own, because it is possible for people to sell on their own. The problem is it's just really difficult when you have all this conflicting opinions on YouTube and all kinds of different blogs telling you to do it one way. And by the way, don't forget our friends in the industry who probably spend billions of dollars everywhere trying to convince us how complex and how scary it is to sell in their home. So I'm here to kind of help navigate people through that. And to the extent that we can ever help out, please don't be afraid to look us up. I'm at foolprooffsbo.com if you ever want to check us out.
I've had my fair share of good transactions and bad transactions, and some of them are a piece of cake. So I get why people would want to sell it themselves, especially to save money on the transaction. If you have a well-kept house and you've kept all the details together, it could be easy riding, so good for you. Thank you, Tim, for being a service to people out there that don't need a real estate agent. Frank says, I've been saying the crash is coming, and it's coming in hot, bigger than 2008. So I don't know, Tim, if you saw the thumbnail that I made, but it was like 2008, again, is this going to happen again? So we are seeing with that, I'm going to go ahead and show this article. Oops. Wrong thing. Present, share screen. And so here we go. So CNBC, all these other articles have been coming out showing the fact that the foreclosure rate in October has really gone up. So we're going to go back to this one. This was CNBC. New foreclosures jumped 20% in October, a sign that more distress in the housing market. Tim, where are you at? What state?
Oh, so I'm in Merritt Island, Florida, near Cocoa Beach area. So.
Okay, so you guys are on the list, by the way.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, I don't need CNBC to tell me that.
Yeah. Foreclosures start, which our initial phase of the process, rose 6% for the month and were 20% higher than a year before. Complete foreclosures, the final phase, were up 32% year over year. Florida, South Carolina, and Illinois led the nation in state foreclosing foreclosure filings, which is I don't know if you guys knew, but last year was like it was New Jersey, and they fell way off the list. I don't even think they're in the top 50 right now. Foreclosure filings in the month of October, after sitting at historic lows in recent years, according to recent data on Thursday. While the numbers are still small, the persistent rise in foreclosures may be signs of cracks in the housing market. And you tell me what you think. But I think there's a multi-layered problem here with the foreclosures, because I don't necessarily think it's just just the fact that people can't pay the mortgage. I think they're having problems paying for food, electricity. Everything's gone up in price. And then you in Florida have this issue with taxes and insurance. The insurance is so bad. So there were 66 U.S. properties with the sum of type of foreclosure filing in October, such as default notices, schedule auctions, and bank repossessions, according to Adam, a property data analysis analytics firm. There was a 3% higher in September and a 19% jump from October 2024, and a marked 8th straight month of annual increases. Foreclosures start, which are the initial phase of the process, rose 6% for the month and 20% higher than the year before. Completing foreclosures, the final phase, is 32% year over year. Even with the increases, activity remains well below historic highs. The current trend appears to reflect a gradual normalization of foreclosure volumes as the market conditions adjust and some homeowners continue to navigate higher borrowing costs. So what they're saying here is that it's just leveling out to where it was pre-pandemic. And
well, yeah,
you go ahead. You tell me what you're going to say.
well, so it seems like faint praise. I mean, so just because it's not at historic peaks, it's okay. It's like being proud of being the tallest midget. I don't know if that's really like, I don't know. Is that mean to say? But okay, yeah, it's not as bad as it could be. We've only got one leg cut off, but we still got a perfectly good other leg. I remember, and this is going to sound like me saying back in my day, but back in my day when I was 18 years old, I was a private first class in the Marine Corps. I remember taking a $20 bill out of the ATM once a week, and I lived on that thing for a whole frigging week. Okay, Now fast forward to today, wife, 4 kids, dog. Like I'm the only male in this house. I'm completely outnumbered, and I go do all the grocery shopping. It's easily, I'm not kidding, and we're not buying filet mignon, $600 every time I hit the grocery store every week. Now you can't. There's all kinds of profane ways of saying this, but I guess you can't pour water down my back and tell me it's such a whatever it is. I am telling you right now, there's no way costs have gone down. And yes, you're absolutely right, Kristina. The reason foreclosures are going up is because it's literally the last domino to fall. That's why mortgages are the most secure loan typically. That's why the interest rates are so low. You're more likely to stop paying on a credit card or a vehicle than you are your home. So when foreclosures start going up, you know that it's really starting to hit the fan. And that's what drives me nuts when I hear people say, oh, well, it's not as bad as it could be. Oh, give me a break. Yes, it is. This is terrible.
All right. So it says Florida, South Carolina, Illinois led the nation in state foreclosure filings on the metro area level. Florida's Tampa, Jacksonville, and Orlando had the most filings, while Riverside, California, Cleveland are rounding out the top 5. Looking specifically at completed foreclosures, Texas, California, Florida had the most, suggesting that those states are seeing more inventory come onto the market at distressed prices. There is a very strong demand for homes, especially in the lower price range, of course, affordability. Oh, yeah. So it is likely that those foreclosed properties buyers will buy quickly, depending on the... Okay. At the peak of the Great Recession, more than 4% of mortgages were in foreclosure, according to Rick, CEO of CJ Patrick Company, a real estate market intelligence firm. Today, that's less than 0.5% are in foreclosure, well below the historic average of 1% or 1.5%. In addition, 4% of mortgages are delinquent at the peak of the financial crisis. That was, we were at that time, we were almost at 12%. Okay. Yeah. So just to be clear, there is no foreclosure tsunami to worry about. That said, there are a few concerns. The Federal Housing Administration delinquencies are over 11%, and they account for 52% of the seriously delinquent loans. We're likely to see more FHA loans in foreclosure in 2026. He noted that the states where home prices have been falling while insurance premiums have been soaring are Florida, Texas in particular, are seeing an uptick in defaults. This is the thing, like especially with Florida, when the financial crisis hit the last time, Florida got hammered. Then they had a multitude of issues layered on top of it. They had a lot of people that were in predatory, terrible loans where they did those interest only loans.
Yep.
They did the stated income loans. So they had all these people that were in really dumb loans, and people that like owned 3 houses because they thought they were going to like win the lottery doing this, you know,
Yeah,
and then they were using the houses as an ATM machine. We had
Yep.
a bunch of people doing that. And I lived there at that time. And then they had a bunch of people that thought that they were going to buy a house. They had the credit to buy a house, but it was beyond what they really could afford. But they were holding on to it in the hopes that, okay, well, we're going to hold on to this for 2 years, make $100,000, and then step away from it. Well, they bought at the height of the market, and then all that equity, that imaginary equity, got eaten away instantly. On top of it all, during that financial crisis, they had built crazy, especially in the Central Florida area. I can't speak to other areas, but we had tons of inventory. I know in Miami, they had tons of condos that were being built at that time. And so you had an excess of supply because of the overbuilt areas. You had people that were in kooky loans, and then, then people that overbought for what they could afford. So the foreclosure crisis during 2008, it made perfect sense because it was a perfect storm, and that's why home prices dropped so incredibly low in places like Florida, in places like Nevada, in places like Phoenix, Arizona. This time around, it's a lot different. Now you're seeing the adjustment in areas like Austin, Texas, that did have a lot more new construction. They've dropped over 30%. I've talked to several agents out there. It isn't a bloodbath like a lot of the YouTubers like to put out there. It had adjusted for how much it actually had gone down. So it's 30% from the height of the market, nowhere near what it was pre-pandemic levels. And that's what people are really hoping for, because that makes it more affordable for them in their area. So do you want to add anything to that there, Tim?
Yeah, I love your advice on this, because one of the things that scares me a little bit, and I'm definitely not a doomer and a gloomer. I'm if anything, I'm optimistic to a fault. But what I will say is one thing that does trouble me is when I look back about all what happened in 2008. That was a subprime crisis that was brought about by people having, as you said, locked into very risky mortgages, and that adjustable rate was going up. And so as a result of that, a lot of people were not able to afford their home anymore. They had to release it back to the banks. We had a glut of housing on the bank's ledger sheets that they then let go. Now, what scares me is today, it's different. What's happening today is our dollar is actually worth less today every single day, and it's being devalued, it's being inflated, and so it has become less of a liquidity crisis, which was 2008, an affordability crisis now. And again, I don't like using words like crisis and all that kind of stuff, but for anybody to look at take whatever measurement you want, and they're all flawed, but take the CPI, for example, prices have gone up. And I'm sorry what everybody is telling you on the news, whether you're cheerleading for one side or the other, prices are higher today than they were yesterday, and they will always be that way in this kind of fiat currency economy. So that's what scares me today is it's not only worth less, it's getting worth less faster. And it's a much different set of mechanisms in place right now that's causing these foreclosures. And that's why I'm worried. And so do you have any thought? Have you heard anything on that front? Is it different from where you sit, how this is all going to play out?
Well, there's so many different theories on how it's going to play out, but
yeah.
The problem, I think, is that everybody will agree with us, is that greed has gotten in the way of normal market conditions.
Sure.
So everything that we do now is is turning into this like subscription type model. So, healthcare is out of control. It's so expensive. You can't, like you can't do anything, even when you have insurance. Now I'm hearing it's becoming more and more popular for people to just, you know what, we're going to just pay out of pocket because it's, the insurance premiums are so incredibly high. And it, like they make a deal with these doctors, and there actually are like, general practitioners that are doing this where they're basically the insurance for these. You pay like a monthly fee and you always go to this general practitioner for all your stuff. I mean, it's an option out there, and it makes it a heck of a lot more affordable, especially for people with large families or, people that are more budget conscious. And, like the fact that like insurance is tied to to employment is just absolutely ridiculous. And totally different conversation. But I'm just saying, then you add groceries on top of it. Like you were saying, like beef is so incredibly expensive. Then you get your electricity bills, and then you get your homeowners insurance bills. My home insurance, my personal home insurance in 5 years tripled. So what I paid in 2019 to now is triple the price.
And I got one better for you.
If you are on a fixed income, right? And then you have all these other things on top of it. That's why I think like Florida is another hotbed for foreclosures, because it isn't just happening to people that aren't like willing to pay their bills or people that are being lazy. I always hear that like, oh, what a loser, they got foreclosed on. I mean, freaking, how could you anticipate that your home value would increase so much that your taxes would go up that incredibly high? Because normally 3%, you can count on that for, every year. And let's just say you just retired at 65 and in 2019, you think you're living high on the hog, and then all of a sudden, like these costs have gone up this much. No, it's record precedenting. The food costs, everything has gone up so much. And now what you planned for, what you have like scripted and saved and worked with in order to make sure that you were able to retire, now you can't. And now you're at 68 going, okay, I guess I got to get a part-time job just to be able to cover my bills.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that foreclosure comes in through that too, especially in Florida. People don't think of it that way. They think of it as people losing their jobs. And you see the jobs numbers are getting worse and worse and worse every single month. And if you don't have a job, you're not going to be able to pay your mortgage. So I can see that these foreclosure numbers, even though we're not even at pre-pandemic levels, I'm saying that you can anticipate more of those hitting.
The water's rising. Yeah, you can see that coming. And I've got one even better for you. I have a sweet teacher that lives down the street. The kind of lady. She spent 40 years taking care of your bratty kids so you didn't have to. She never asked anything from anybody. Lovely person. Fixed income. Her insurance company here in Florida, and this is like a new thing here. Apparently, they just decided every 10 years, you have to get a new roof on their house or they will cancel your insurance.
That's true.
Holy crap. Are you out of your cotton picking mind? So this poor lady has to come up and it wasn't like they told you 10 years ago, hey, just heads up, in the next 10 years, you might want to save up for this, put $500 a year away. Hits you all at once. And if she didn't have the savings, and it turns out she didn't, we had to figure something out for her. But anyway, long story short, yes, that kind of real stuff where they keep moving the goalposts on you. We have another family friend, their property taxes almost doubled because she got a divorce and she lost her homestead. Well, they didn't bother telling her that. And yes, of course, it's incumbent on you to know, okay, whatever. You tell me you read all the terms and conditions when you sign up for iTunes, give me a break. This poor lady, they doubled. And you know what? Florida statute, you can't, no takesies backsies. They're so childish with your money. They're like, oh yeah, no. Once that has gone up, you can't appeal that. It's too late. I get pretty animated about this stuff here because it is literally pulling people who have bled and sweat and skipped vacations to afford that home, and they're just plucking it away from them. So for what? So your governor could add another zero to his highway budget that they don't even use for highways. I'm sorry. I'm getting off on a tangent here.
You know why I wanted Tim here. I love him. I love your tangents. Jasmine says, I went through a foreclosure in 2010 and lost the battle in my San Diego home in 2012. I don't wish that for anybody. And that is the God honest truth. I saw so many people, families, that were really, they thought they were doing the right thing. I think some of the lenders at that time that were offering these loans that were kind of weird and kooky and stuff like that, they were like, you can afford a home. You have nothing to worry about. You can refinance later. And that's why I'm so pissed at all those lenders that were going around saying, date the rate, marry the house. Those people, I was pissed because that's the kind of marketing they use to people for people to get them into predatory loans back in 2008.
Yeah.
And I saw whole families having to walk away from their home. And, they're devastated, absolutely devastated. And yes, I want homes to be more affordable, but I don't want what is the damage that is caused, from a foreclosure crisis. That's not a great way to get homes more affordable. They just need to start making more affordable housing. And I don't blame the home builders for not building more affordable homes because they have to make a profit. And if they built those little 1,300 square foot houses, they're not going to make a profit because the land and the development of the land and all the red tape they have to go through, not only that, building materials and the cost of labor, they can't pencil that out to make it work where they do make a profit.
For sure.
But if our governments, instead of, spending on stupid stuff, started subsidizing the cost of either the building materials or the labor, once those houses are completed to make up for that, so more affordable houses were on the market, then we can make this work. But, everybody's like, I don't know how to fix it. You have to build more, period.
Yeah.
You have to build more housing. And there's a new thing. I don't know if anybody saw this, but they're talking about being able to take your rate. So one of the theories is that you would, if you're locked in a house and you have a 2.5% interest rate, you would be able to take that mortgage and loan to the next house. Like a movable mortgage, basically. You can move your mortgage over to the next house. They have not given any details on how this would work, but the theory is this: if you're able to buy, you're in a smaller house, and then you can purchase your next house with the same mortgage that you currently had, then that would free up some of the smaller homes that are available to people that would be first-time home buyers. But with that being said, the cost of housing right now is like over $407,000. I think the median runs around 407 or 425. Let's just say it's inching really close to $500,000, right?
Yep.
The average age of a person buying a home today is 40 years old. So, I mean, who you're freeing in this market up for? It's still going to not be for those first-time home buyers that are, starting their new families, at 29 or 30 or 35. They're still waiting to be able to afford a home. We still don't have enough supply of housing on the market. I don't know if this would necessarily work. It could work in some areas, especially if people are looking to move up. Now, I hear people I'm all over social media. I'm an addict. And I do hear them saying, I'm going to be buried in this house. I know it's too small. We're busting out at the seams because we have 3 kids in a 3-bedroom house. But I have a 2.5% interest rate and I'm not moving. I'm going to get buried in the backyard. Yep. I don't blame them. I don't really blame them. So this could help free up some inventory, especially if they could take it to the next house. Again, no details on this. It was just one of those things that had been proposed.
Yeah. And one of the things that always gives me pause when I hear about great ideas like that is who's insuring it? So who's backing it? And who are you talking to? What angel do you have at your local bank? What angel of a banker is going to say, yeah, I'll take a 4% APR haircut. Sure. It's my pleasure. So that tells me it's either going to be government backed, which means it's going to be rife with fraud and waste and abuse, or maybe it's too good to be true, or they're not telling you the whole thing. Because here's one thing I do know is in Florida, when you move or you sell your house, you lose your homestead. So what would trouble me is after doing the net of the whole equation is, do you actually still end up taking it hard on the shorts because you moved, you left your homestead? Yeah, you keep your 2.5% interest rate, but on the PITI statement, that interest is such a small component of that anyway, as it relates to the rest of what you're being charged for, which is property taxes and the insurance. Then who knows? It might have people still rate locked in their homes. That might not help. I don't know.
So they're calling them portable mortgages. You can just carry it over to the next house. But like I said, there isn't a lot of details in it. They floated around that 50-year mortgage thing, and then the experts came out and said that's a terrible idea. So if you notice that left the headlines pretty damn quick.
Well, yeah, and I don't know if is this the part of the show where I'm able to put on my tinfoil hat and say, hey, shucks, the biggest. Oh, please tell me you have one. Oh, fantastic. Well, I mean, the biggest bug in all of this might be there we go, some X-Files music going on. What concerns me is, I'm not saying this happens, but let's just pretend you are the CEO of a giant conglomerate of private equity. And one of the best ways for you to increase your inventory at rock bottom prices is to create an environment where people can no longer afford their homes. They have to give it to the bank. And then you come in and say, hey, wow, look at this. I could buy 75,000 houses all at once for 29 cents on the dollar. What a deal. I mean,
well, the 50-year mortgage was like the only people that are going to win on that are the banks.
Well, for sure.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I just always follow the money, right? Let's see where the incentives lie, and then you're going to find out why this is. Because I'm gonna give a spoiler alert right now. None of these things that these people come out with are designed to help people like you or me or the nice teacher lady down the street do any better. And I'm sorry to say that, but that's just the reality of it all. They are trying to help out their friends, their donors, whatever it is. Hey, I guess that's the way it is. But when I see people get excited about being on the hook to a bank for 50 years because they get to save $500 a month, I'm sorry, you lose me on that. I can't follow that logic.
But I mean, I laugh at some of these ideas. I feel like sometimes like people like they go to sleep and then they wake up and they're like, I have an epiphany. I'm going to go ahead and shout this from the rooftops and see who it sticks. Let's see if they bite onto that. If they bite onto that, I'm in.
When I see some of the ideas that people have glommed onto, and I guess I don't put anything past. I don't put anything past anybody.
Red Haitian Seed says, I want private equity out of housing. So there was an article that was out just recently talking about the amount of people, investors buying houses. And in that article, they like to vilify and they love to vilify the mom and pop investors. So they said in the article that most of these investments were made by mom and pop, not private equity, like us in the YouTube world love to vilify. But here's the thing: if you actually drew a map in any local city to see where private equity is buying up housing, they buy it in concentrated spots in neighborhoods. So all of them are just, sure, if you took the whole thing of Atlanta, they only own 0.5%, but that 0.5% is in one concentrated area. So if they own that one concentrated area, they dictate the market. I just put out a short, I think it was on Friday, talking about little things that you could do in your specific area to stop private equity. I think they're downplaying it in the articles. Who owns media? They're downplaying
right
the role that private equity has in single family housing. They have not stopped purchasing housing. If they're not, and they're not buying luxury mansions, by the way.
No.
And they're not even buying the middle class or upper middle class housing. They're buying the most affordable homes in the area. Most affordable homes in the area. They are a problem. And to downplay the fact that they have a role in what's been going on with home prices is to me, it's laughable. It's laughable. Yeah. And I've been reading, I've even read some real estate agents are like, it's not as big of a problem as you think. Yeah, if you take all the housing across the United States and you say, these are all the transactions that have happened in the United States for the last year, and this is the role that private equity has had in those transactions, it looks very small. But if you actually look exactly where they're buying, like I said, they're buying in specific areas and concentrating those areas. So they own the market. To downplay that and then blame mom and pops for owning 2 rental properties, they're the real problem, not us here on Wall Street. We're not the issue. It's those mom and pops. That's messed up. It's
the same old playbook, and they do it everywhere. I know it's somewhat unrelated. Here in Florida, I live on the East Coast. I used to love to go out fishing. snapper was taken off. We weren't allowed to fish for snapper, line and hook, because why? The fishery needed time to recover. But here's the funny part. They still let the commercial guys who were dragging nets, who were bringing up 10, 15, 20,000 pounds of snapper every day. They were allowed to. But the reason that we were given that we couldn't fish for them anymore is to let the fishery recover. It's just about having a better lobbyist. I'm sorry. The commercial fishing industry has a much better lobbyist in DC than I do, which is to say I have none. Just like probably BlackRock or whoever else has a better lobbying firm than my Aunt Millie, who has 2 rental houses down her block. Like, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think grandma trying to subsidize her retirement because now she can't afford it because of her insurance and food costs. Like, I don't think she's the problem.
She's not the problem.
No. I don't think she's the problem.
No.
Who's Up First says that employer-sponsored healthcare insurance is now what it was major medical insurance prior to the ACA. Insurance is for major medical incidents. That covers a few preventative procedures. Yeah, well, like, anyways, this inflation is exploitation. I personally agree. It's gotten out of hand, especially the food costs. Like, I shop at Aldi for like a lot of my fruits and vegetables, and I design my food, my dinners that week for what I can get fresh from Aldi because it's a lot cheaper. And I had a very little basket, and that was $40. And I'm
That's
like,
nuts. At Aldi.
I can't believe even at Aldi.
That included the cart rental. The 25 cent
my quarter. I leave my quarter. I leave it for the next guy. I leave my quarter.
Yeah. No.
Howdy's in Utah?
Yeah. Inflation. What do they say? Inflation is the most insidious form of tax because they get to it's basically they raise our taxes without even getting a vote, without even asking for it. By increasing what it takes for us to buy a loaf of bread or buy a pound of hamburger. Dude, ground beef at the store was $9 a pound. I mean, are you nuts?
Well, here's the thing I think about all the time. At some point, like, the greed is going to get too much, right? The greed, you still need these human meat sacks to buy your crap, right? And if you continue to put this much pressure on people, they're not going to be able to buy your junk anymore.
No.
When is the breaking point?
Well, because these people who make these decisions only think the next election cycle down the road. They're not thinking about your children or your children's children. They're thinking, how do I get another 2 years out of this sinking ship before we have to go hide in our bunker? Legit. Like, I truly believe they're just trying to kick the can down one more election cycle.
Yep. Frank says, ask yourself, why aren't they building more at these high prices? Market economics say that high prices and profits should encourage more supply. It isn't happening. Why? Big builder collusion. But like, if you look at Lennar and DR Horton, I mean, they're still cranking out houses like nobody's business. It's a lot. Yeah. The labor force is struggling, and it was struggling prior to the pandemic. Then the pandemic made it even worse, and now it's struggling even more. So, and then the cost of building materials is really high.
Yeah, and Frank asked the right first half of the question, which is, hey, if they could get 15, 20% more for their house than they could last year, then why are they not building more? But to answer the second half of that question that we have to look into is, well, that assumes that you have an audience that can pay for it.
Right.
And if you don't have
their belts.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the problem, Frank, is that, yes, of course, the prices are up there. Of course, I guarantee you the CEO of Pulte would love to go ahead and just flood the market right now if he had a bunch of people with money in their pockets. He's missing that. He's missing the customer.
Right. Like, I don't know if you saw in Texas, Lennar is making these super small, tiny houses. They're like in the 140s and 150s, but they're like, I have to find them. Eddie, if you could do me a favor and you could find those, just put Lennar tiny homes. I think it's in San Antonio, Texas. I think that's where they're at. And they were started at like in the 150s, and I think they're like 600 to 700 square feet.
Wow.
And they have like a downstairs and an upstairs, and they're like a sliver of land to be able to afford. And I'm like, I would rather have, if I'm living in Central Texas, I just rather have a manufactured house on a piece of land where I'm not like right next to my neighbor, where I can smell what they're cooking for dinner, And I'd rather that than live in a neighborhood where everybody's laying on top of each other. See, this is them.
Wow. That looks like shipping container homes.
They're like shipping container homes, but they're stick built, hardy
Yeah.
board type homes. The kitchen is super tiny, and it's like a shotgun style house, like here in Louisiana, but with a double decker, right? And all the bedrooms
Yeah.
are upstairs, so it doesn't really work for people that are elderly. This is definitely focused on a specific younger buyer. And I mean, I don't live out there. I don't know if it really worked, but it seemed to me like for those homes, even in that area, 175,000 for those seemed high, in my opinion. Am I right? I mean, like, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments.
It just makes
What
me
do you
kind of
think?
sad. I mean, look what they've done to us. I don't know. I was talking to a friend of mine. His dad was a truck driver in 1973. He bought a home for 2x his annual salary as a truck driver. That would never happen today, ever. It's so sad what's been done to us. I don't know. Again, I'm not a doomer or a gloomer, but sometimes you have to look at the reality of all this. But I'm with you. If that was the house I was looking at, I would much rather be on a piece of land on my RV. I lived in my RV for 3 years. It was awesome. Had a blast. So I would totally go back to that. I love living small, but not because I have to, because I want to, right? And that's the difference.
We're buying smaller. Our next home is gonna be smaller.
It's awesome. Oh
yeah, but I often I look at it and compare it to back in my day when I was like buying our first house. I thought I was behind. We were buying my first house at 28, and the average age at that time was 26 years old. So I was 2 years behind. I was really upset. Bought my first house, but at that time I was a hairdresser. And Eddie, I think, was in car sales at the time. We had regular ordinary jobs. And those regular ordinary jobs today can't buy a house.
Heck no. You can hardly pay rent with that.
Yeah, I know. Sarah says I would love a portable mortgage rate. I don't know the details or how it would work. So a portable mortgage is a home loan that a homeowner can transfer to a new property when they move, allowing them to keep their existing interest rate in terms. This concept is designed to help homeowners who want to sell and buy the new home, but are hesitant to lose a favorable low interest rate on their current loan. If the new home price is higher than the remaining balance on the original mortgage, the homeowner would need to finance the difference with a new loan or cash. So so if you, yep. So you would have to come up with, you would have two mortgages, basically. You have two mortgages. So you can't just I'm going to buy this $450,000 house after selling my $250,000 house. You're going to have to take that extra, what you owe, either finance it with a second mortgage. And I wonder how the banks are going to coordinate this, because the loan terms would completely change with your current loan, what you've already signed.
Sure.
I don't know. Maybe I think this is wishful thinking.
It's those devilish details. And the ones that would scare me the most are what happens to your property taxes. Do you reset like every time you bought a house before, or do you get to kind of be grandfathered into your old property tax millage rate?
Yeah. And what if you're moving out of state? Does that portable mortgage rate
it must not? Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. David Matney says, in our market, just to get a ground develop, just to build, it takes around $100,000. Yeah.
Government is the problem, not the solution here. I mean, get them out of the way.
Well, I talk about this all the time with the development of land for a subdivision. The amount of hoops you have to go through, with all the different committees that you have to meet with all the different offices that you have to get approval through, just to get cable put in, just to have electricity put out there, to have the thing mapped out for the specific housing. All those meetings in California, if you're fast tracked, it takes 10 years. So if you're a developer, you're in it for the long haul, because you're not going to get your return on investment for 10 years. 10 years. So a lot of these bills that are out there are meant to cut some of the red tape so they can build a little bit faster. But a lot of times it's just a line item they love to say in a political campaign, like, we're going to cut the red tape. And they've been saying that for the last 25 years. And I have yet to have seen fruition to rezoning and cutting red tape. So
they never. Well, let me spoil that one. They never will, because how do you think they get attention and campaign donations? By offering people cutouts. So they're still going to have all that red tape, but hey, listen, because I can tell you're a professional, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll get that time down to 4 years if you contribute the right amount to my campaign. They love that we have to jump through hoops like they're trained monkeys. They love doing that to us because then we have to pay to play, and the only people to pay are so yeah. Government is definitely the problem here. I have absolutely I have the most disfavorable view of government that I think anybody can have this side of prison. So
Charlton Zimmerman, a longtime watcher. Love you. Glad to see you here. Most working people are working 60 to 80 hours a week. Costs are too high to keep up. Yeah. And people are looking to different solutions to offset that. Because, you're looking at your 24 or 25-year-old kid and they don't want to live with you.
Right.
They love you, but they really want to be on their own. So a lot of people are looking into multifamily housing where everybody could live at one location. I've noticed that even some of the loan packages through FHA and VA and everything else is allowing in loosening up the restrictions, because we had a rental property here that had a house that was attached to the house. And they gave us a bunch of guff when we were purchasing this thing. But so this kid wanted to buy it, right? He's like 26 years old. He wanted to buy it with him and his kids, and he wanted to use an FHA loan. And I'm like, this is going to be a problem. Oh no, it wasn't. They closed in 3 weeks. And they didn't have an issue that the two houses connected together. They were like, oh, this is an asset because they can use that as an income producing property. And they had no problem with it. I'm like, boy, they sure as hell had a problem with it.
It's nice to see them come around. Yeah. That's cool.
And I think the thing is that they're seeing this, especially a lot more in California and areas that allow for ADUs and, those accessory dwelling units, those little houses behind the house. That's what those are. And so because there was such a demand, they had to come up with a different way for people to be able to purchase them. And I think it's great. I think it's great that, FHA has seen and recognized that and come up with a better loan package for young people. So if you have a piece of property and the area allows for accessory dwelling units, you could put a little small tiny home behind your house, get it approved with the county or parish here in Louisiana, and then you can use that as an income producing property, and then you can offset your mortgage payments. Or you can also do that with your family as well. So that way you're not living with your mom and dad anymore. You have your own house and your own. And, sometimes too, just to make things even a little bit more separate, you can go to your post office and see if they had skipped a number of the street numbers. And if they have skipped a number of the street numbers, they'll give you your own street address for your ADU in the backyard, so you can have another mailbox on your property. So just FYI on that. So
that's fun.
MHO says, I don't wear shoes. That is so hysterical. I know she's on. They're under here. They're my Crocs, but that's so funny. All right. Our Joseph Cardwell 9352 said, yeah, that's the problem. I hate foreclosures. If the house sits, it's just going to get ruined. It's worth less than what the bank wants for it. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. I was here during the whole financial crisis, right? And we had some houses that sat on the market way too long, right? There was this house. It took 10 years before the foreclosure process actually completed because they were getting a divorce. While they were getting a divorce, they were going through bankruptcy and they were being foreclosed on. Once all of those things were complete, by the way, she had gotten married after that. Once all the documentation was complete, then they were able to put it on the market. By that time, we had like 2 hurricanes, a tree went through it, and the bank doesn't maintain these properties during that time. They just make sure it's winterized so the pipes don't blow up, right? And then another foreclosure, investor of mine was purchasing during that time. The people that were foreclosed on were really ticked off, and they had poured cement down all the pipes just because they were so angry about it. So that was a cost because the piping here was under the slab. They were able to get it done. I was shocked. They anticipated a certain price and they came under that price by a lot. But
yeah, and that's the other problem.
Happen in foreclosures, but you can also get
Yeah.
some really good deals, right? So they also
Yeah.
bought a house for $30,000. They were expecting to spend about $100,000 to bring it back up to snuff, and it only cost them $60,000 before they were able to rent it out again.
Nice.
It wasn't nearly as expensive as they anticipated. So you can get some good deals. You just have to know what you're doing and what you're looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a problem too in Florida. They don't have to necessarily winterize them here, but as soon as those utilities get shut off, just humidity, mold, you name it, it just infests the property. Pests. I mean, it just gets nasty. So yeah, that is a big problem with foreclosed homes, at least down here in Florida.
Well, even with the HUD certified, even the HUD certified homes, because our HUD certified homes, they run the electricity. They do not leave the electricity off.
It depends. So the problem is by the time that HUD gets in there to actually do anything to connect the utilities, maybe it's been 6 months, maybe it's been a year. But here in Florida, you only need really like a month for things to get really nasty inside of a house, especially in August.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I would suggest if you are buying a foreclosed property, just know that you can do things to bring it. You don't have to. Mold is scary. There's no doubt about it. But there is ways that you can what is that? Remedy it?
Yeah.
Remediate. That was the word I was looking for. Remediate it, because we have it here in Louisiana. I mean, we are the reigning capital of the United States, and you can have ozone treatments done. You can have your ducts cleaned. You can have special filters put into your AC system. If you're worried that there was some mold exposure behind your walls, you can have an inspection done that tells you if it's behind those walls. And just because it's behind those walls, it doesn't mean that you have to like burn down the whole entire house.
Right.
You can cut out that drywall, and you can treat that area with, the spore stuff, let it dry out, and you can put the new drywall back up. We are a flooding little area. We know how to handle mold like nobody's business.
Ozone's awesome too. Those little ozone machines, those things they work wonders.
Sharon says that she question, my 30-year-old daughter wants to buy a house with her boyfriend. You can do that as long it's not. You don't have to be married to buy a house together. That's not a thing anymore. Matter of fact, they were even showing people that are roommates are buying houses together, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend.
It's a tall order.
Yeah, the tall order, but they were showing commercials of that. As long as you guys have the same kind of income and can you can get qualified together. Just go meet with a mortgage lender. Tim and I are not mortgage lenders, so I don't know, what you would qualify for. It has a lot to do with your debt to income ratio as well. So, meet with a lender. It's very possible. Debbie Brady wants to know if you've smashed that like button. Yeah. So if you guys have any questions during the stream for Tim or I, you're more than welcome to answer them. Just for you guys that are new to the chat, Tim is not a foreclosure expert, but he is a for sale by owner expert. So if you're thinking about for sale by owner or selling your home yourself, you can ask those questions of Tim in the chat. Just write the word question first, and then your question that you want to answer. And then Eddie, the producer in the background, will put it up on the screen. So David Manny says, this will never happen, but they should make it tougher to get credit cards. People get so far in credit card debt, they will never get ahead. You know what? I used to think, like when I was younger, people would get into credit card debt. I think a lot of what they're getting into now is student loan debt, because people sold them a bill of goods on the student loan debt, right? Back in my day, when you would go on any college campus, they used to have Visa, Discover, American Express, and they would flood all these kids with credit cards so they could get into debt. Then it became a law that they no longer could peddle to college students to get them into credit card debt. And right at that very same time, all of a sudden, college tuitions in the early 90s started going berserk, because they no longer could do those predatory loans with interest rates, because those credit cards for college students were like 20, 30, 40, like stupid percentage rates, right? And kids don't know, they're just signing on the dotted line. But now they can wrap them into, you are promised a better education and a better future if you go ahead and go to college and get in all the student loan debt. And some of the people do not realize that they'll say it's a 4% interest rate on these student loans, but you didn't read the bottom line where they can change that interest rate at any time when they deem necessary, right? So this lady, I just saw that she had finished her college degree. She was so happy. She had been paying for years. And then all of a sudden she gets this new payment and she's like, what the hell is this? And the interest rate went up to 12.5%. And she was like, where did this come from? And in there, little tiny print, they can change it and reset it at any time. Those student loans are very predatory, predatory.
They've gotten worse. A lot of people missed this, but back in, I want to say it was 2012, 2013, the federal government actually took over the student loan program. And if you remember, it was because they felt at the time that the student loans were becoming predatory. Okay, fine. Remember, whenever you ever hear a politician talking, you look what he says here, but you watch what happens over there. What he was saying was, we're going to make them less predatory. What happened is now that the loans are secured by the federal government, they are no longer able to be liquidated through bankruptcy, which means before, when it was a private bank that was providing the student loans, if you declared bankruptcy, that student loan debt goes away. That's easy for me to say. If now you declare bankruptcy, guess what? It still never goes away. It's with you forever. So it's such a vicious cycle where now we're going to guarantee that student loans can be granted. Cool. Now colleges are like, well, then we're charging more tuition. Well, therefore we're going to guarantee more money goes into the system. And it's a self-licking ice cream cone. And my daughter's in the middle of it right now up at UNF in Jacksonville. And thank God she loves it. We're having a good time with it. And I love watching her succeed there, but it's maddening. And by the way, we got in-state tuition and it is still insane how much it's costing. It's nuts.
How much is it with in-state?
It's $12,000 a year I'm sorry, $12,000 a semester. I said a semester. Yeah. It's insane. So I know, forget it. So I told her she needs to go figure out how to get a date with Elon Musk, and we'll get this. She'll marry rich, and I don't know what we're gonna do, but it's just crazy. And she's gonna be awesome. She's gonna be a mechanical engineer, and she's so smart. And I mean, but still, it's insane. We all know, like when you step back and you see that giant ramp in tuition costs, it's directly correlated with how much government money was getting poured into the system. And so here we are.
MH08 says they're regulating mom and pops out of business.
Big time. I totally agree with that.
Trap says, in my area is a Target. They just bought my neighbor's house. Private equity probably bought it.
Probably. And that's the thing, like a lot of people don't understand. They think like big companies are anti-regulation. They're not. There's nothing more than a big company loves when they can get the government to pass all kinds of regulations. Because what does that do? It keeps the ankle biters from coming up and competing with them. They have giant staffs of CPAs. They have huge legal defense folks, an entire team of lawyers that can fill out all this minutia and this paperwork. But some poor schmuck like you or me, we try to start a company. Guess what? We're never going to be able to jump through all those hoops. And that's exactly whether he's 100% right. Regulation has gotten so out of control that they're using that now to keep out anybody who would compete against the monopolies out there.
Josh says foreclosure is a problem. If the house just sets, it gets ruined. They're usually worth less than what the bank wants for it. Then it goes to tax auctions and then forget selling. You know what though? You know what happened in 2008, since we're talking about private equity.
Yeah.
In 2008, a lot of the homes that sat on the market, they were sold as bundle packages from the banks to private equity. To get them off their books. And they were doing them a favor because, the banks were in trouble at that time, even though we bailed them out, we bailed them out. And so private equity took over the rest.
Did you ever get your thank you card for that? I never got a thank you card. Did you get a thank you card for your bailout?
No, but I did see Wall Street investors sitting on Wall Street hanging out the door when they got that bailout. They were popping champagne. Disgusting.
Yeah.
They didn't care. They were laughing at us.
Yeah.
All right.
He was on his yacht.
I wanted to show you the top states that are in having the foreclosures right now. Of course, Florida, then South Carolina, and then it is Illinois, and then it's Delaware. That was a little surprising to me. Then Nevada, which didn't surprise me. In 2008, Nevada was on that list big time. Then we have Ohio, and I think that's probably going to be closer to the Boise area because they had a lot of. I was shocked how much was purchased during COVID in Boise. Did you know that?
Yeah, oh yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah. Then we have Iowa, Illinois. I'm sorry, Iowa, and then where's 8? Maryland. That's probably over the government, right? A lot of government jobs were let go.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
I was thinking, that and maybe the outflux of giant companies leaving Delaware because they've all of a sudden just kind of became hostile toward companies now. I don't know if you've seen some of the rulings that the judges have overridden shareholder votes, which is really weird. That's like such an odd thing. And so, you're seeing like a giant outflux of major corporations that were previously headquartered in Delaware now leaving.
Well, they liked it because of the tax stuff.
For sure. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's surprising. And then next was Utah, which isn't surprising to me because I was out in southern Utah in St. George, which used to be pretty affordable. Then all of a sudden it was like they were cranking out like, another $50,000, and then another month later, then it'd be another $50,000, and houses that were like in the 400s were now $1.2 million, which is insanity. So the fact that they have a high foreclosure rate, or having a higher foreclosure rate than they did previously, the year previous, does not surprise me, not in the least bit. And then number 10 on that is California. All right, that's about as deep as I'm going to go to.
I never got my theme song. Where's my theme song for Florida? I didn't get one.
Ew. Is there? Who sings?
I don't think there's a Florida theme song.
Who wants to sing about Florida? I don't want to sing about Florida.
Are you
I live
kidding
there.
me? You live in the wrong spot. I do love it here, but that's because I grew up in Detroit. So I think everywhere is amazing if you grew up in Detroit. So Detroit's a good place to be from. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I get it. Who's up first says, how is it that paying out of pocket is cheaper than using your insurance for the same medical procedure? Using my insurance for a procedure that costs $1,300 without insurance, it's $600. Come on. That's the most mind-blowing part for me, right? So again, I'm very addicted to watching YouTube and TikTok, two platforms. I watch a lot of it. And one of them is a doctor that calls around different places to find out how much imaging is. And with imaging, with the insurance, the homeowner, not homeowners, with the medical insurance was $3,600. And she called around and she got one as low as $425.
Yeah.
$425.
I did some
insurance
digging into
is a
this.
scam.
It's a giant, it's terrible. And so I did some digging into this. And one of the answers that came from a great friend of mine, who's actually an ER doctor. He taught, and I haven't been able to verify this, but it's the most believable thing I've been able to cobble together from all my internet sleuthing research. And basically commercial insurance is required to pay a given rate that is calculated with the subsidization of all the people who are not insured. So they're basically subsidizing medical care, or Medicaid. Whereas when you pay out of pocket, you are not, I guess, on the hook to subsidize the people who didn't have the money to pay. I don't know. That's what he told me.
I don't buy that for 1 minute. They negotiate the costs, what they're willing to pay before the year even starts. So they're like, this is what they're willing to pay this is how much this procedure is, and this is what we're going to pay. So sometimes, like that Band-Aid, the insurance company said, we'll pay $10 for the Band-Aid. It's not that the hospital charged them $10. They're saying they're going to pay it. So the hospital's like, hell yeah, give us the $10.
Well, yeah,
it's a for-profit. It's a for-profit machine that has gotten out of control, and nobody who's going to stop them? Who's going to stop
exactly.
them? The only way to stop it is for all of us to go, you know what? Forget
I'd
it.
rather die.
We're not going to use insurance anymore. And then the insurance company goes, oh, I guess we better make that affordable. But who's going to get on that page? You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, you know, that's a risk. You know,
It
like
is.
they've done enough fear in us that we have enough risk that we're like, no, we're not going to do that. Question: what do you think of the proposal to limit what banks can finance on a mortgage based on the local rental rates? I have not heard about this proposal. Have you?
No, I'm not anything. The one thing I do know is that anytime you control a price, you're necessarily going to screw up the entire system. I mean, it's never worked whether they try to do price controls on gas. Look at rent control in New York City. It's some of the highest rent in the entire world is in New York City, but there's rent control. So my initial gut reaction, just knowing how economics works, is to say it's probably a bad idea. It sounds lovely. And I love the idea that it's going to be sold to us as, oh, it's going to help people who can't otherwise afford it. The reality is it's likely to take away people who want to be in the space, which is going to get rid of supply. Nobody's going to want to put their house on the market if they're going to not be able to get the maximum amount for it. They'll just wash their hands of it and go somewhere else. So I don't know.
Mhm.
To me, it scares me anytime I hear somebody say we're going to artificially cap the price of something.
Mm. Jasmine says, grateful for you, Kristina and Eddie. Thank you. I'm grateful for you. Frank Brock says, I have a finance background. Trust me, private equity never gets involved unless they have a way to rig it. They always work to restrict manufacturing and pinch supplies so price accelerates. I don't doubt it. I don't
No
doubt
argument
it
here.
the
Yeah.
least bit. I mean, every time, and this is no joke because I've been in the affordable housing space now. I mean, I've been really digging into it like a lot more since 2019. And
Mhm.
every time you peel back one of those stinky onion layers, the next layer is just as rotten. It always comes down to when you start looking at the board that's on these things, it's either BlackRock or Blackstone or Vanguard
Yep.
every single time.
Yep.
Every single time. And it's like these projects, they get all this investor money coming in and they have all these you know, like, oh, we're really going to do this here in Baton Rouge. Like they're the worst. They say they're going to do this tiny home community. They're going to help veterans. They pool all this money. They have balls. They have Mardi Gras parades. All this stuff to help with the problem. Nothing ever gets done. Nothing ever gets done. And even when you're given all the supplies, even when I have reached out and given them names of builders that are willing to give them houses, to this day, not one house has ever been delivered. Never, not once. It's not a problem they're really willing to fix. They don't want to.
Absolutely not. No. Mm-mm.
It's mind numbing. It makes me very sad. It makes me very sad.
Well, like we said in the beginning, a lot of times people think that the bug is a bug, but it's not. For those folks, it's a feature. I think we find ourselves in a weird position where now, especially in 2025, you really have to like this nice person who just asked about this great idea about pegging interest rates to local rent market rent. You have to kind of look at the second and third order consequences of all of this now, because so often you have so many people willing to just lie to your face and say, yes, we're doing this to help you. And meanwhile, they're just rubbing their hands behind the scenes, counting their money, because what's really happening is these companies are not going to do anything that's not in their ultimate best interest. And to the extent that your interests align, hey, it's a big party. But as soon as they become divergent, they're going to pick their interest over yours every time.
We had a question. They wanted to know where they were on the foreclosure rate in New Mexico. And New Mexico's 34th on the list. Yeah. They're doing pretty darn good, like as far as keeping those filings very low.
Congratulations, New Mexico.
Yes, it's 1 in every 6,416 houses that is in some kind of foreclosure process. That's like 361 filings. So that's really bad.
Let's see 50. I just got to know who's the
I'm sorry, 151 filings. I'm sorry. One in every 6,288 housing units, 151 filings have been done, and they are 34th on the list. So New Mexico's doing good there, friend. Louisiana's up a little higher, and I can tell you what the problem here is in Louisiana. It wasn't the price of homes; it was the cost of insurance that really did a lot of people in. And then there was a little bit of increase on the taxes, but
22.
we're 22nd on the list, and a lot of that is in that coastal areas. You see it on the news every once in a while that like somebody bought during the pandemic, and their new insurance rates bring them their payment way above where they needed to be.
Yep.
And they can't afford it anymore.
Who's 50? I'm curious, who's the most financially secure state we have?
With the most, South Dakota. I didn't even know anybody lived there.
Congratulations.
Who lives in South? Does anybody in the audience live in South Dakota? I want to know. In my lifetime, I've only met one person in high school, and she was from South Dakota. Her name was Ginger Gearman.
I have 3 friends. I went to farmer camp with my buddy who lives in South Dakota. It was an awesome time. I enjoyed it.
Farmer camp?
That's what I called it. He has a farm, and he let me come drive the tractor and all kinds of fun stuff. It was really cool.
Charlton Zimmerman says, question, how does Zillow do let's try that again. How does Zillow do rental rates for the MLS sales? Is it for investors? The rental rates are usually, so when you're putting in a listing, the seller or the investor that owns that rental puts the price on there. So they're averaging out how much rent is in the area, because once it closes, it tells you how much per month the rent is once it closed. So they're just averaging it out every single time that something closes. They're not like putting in the rental rate. It's not like a magic number. Yep. I did live in South Dakota.
There you go.
Oh, somebody said a lot of nomadic YouTubers get residency in South Dakota. That's interesting. There's no state income. There you go. My dad's side of the family have a large contingent in the Dakotas in Iowa.
And going by the odds, none of them are in foreclosure. So congratulations. Yep. Yeah, not Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan. I wasn't even, thank you for saying it first, because I was like, I'm not going to attempt that.
I like that comment.
It says both residents of South Dakota are financially secure.
All 2 of them.
Lawnmower is my commentologist. He always has very good witty one-liners. I love his. He's the commentologist on the channel. So, what are the poll results, Eddie? If you could, Judah, can you put those on the screen? So I asked a question at the beginning talking about the foreclosures, and the question was this: is the foreclosure surge a sign of bigger housing correction? So 35% of you said yes, the pressure is breaking. 28% of you said not yet, but it's coming. 18% of you said no, this is just noise. And 18% said you're not sure. So that was a pretty close split. I would say closer than a lot of other polls that we've done in the past. But 38% of you saying yep. David Matney says, Kristina, what is your response to the poll question? What does the crystal ball say? Ooh. I always have maintained this, and the writing is on the wall as my prediction has been correct. If you see a uptick in people losing their jobs and the job market starts to go to garbage, you're going to see more foreclosures hit the market. And then you're going to see a lot more areas have price corrections. And I have said that since the beginning of 2020. There was not going to be a crash until there's some other major economic disaster. And in my opinion, if the job market goes to crap, then you're going to see home prices reflective of that. So what is the consequences of having home prices come down so they're finally affordable? How many people are getting hurt in the wake of that? That's the problem. Everybody wishing for a crash. How many families are going to have to suffer because of that crash? It's not like people can a lot of times think only for themselves. And I get that. I do. I understand that. But you and I, Tim, and even David, we work with families all the time. And to see people going through that crisis situation where they've lost the home that they love, that they genuinely didn't want to lose, is extremely heartbreaking. And then you get buyers and they're going, oh, you're going to be foreclosed on, or you're going to do a short sale, and they're just hammering them with a price. And then they're like, then the buyer's like, oh, this is payback for all those times during the pandemic, and sellers were being so greedy. So they're just being greedy. There's people behind those numbers. And I get trying to get the best deal possible, but don't be a jerk is all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Try to pretend it's, your mom or your daughter or your sister or your brother who's selling at home, and just,
Right. Try to work with them, especially on short sales. Try to work with those buyers. I would say short sales were much better than people that were in more financial desperation. And you can get a lot of foreclosures at auctions as well. Some auctions are better than others. If you guys don't know, I actually have a link in the description for a company called Foreclosure.com. And they actually have foreclosures that aren't on the open MLS. So you can see, some foreclosures on the open MLS, but these are the ones that the banks are holding that are not on the MLS. So you can join them and join their newsletter, so that if a foreclosure in your area pops up, you may have not known that. Another place you can find foreclosures, and it's completely free, is HUDhomestore.com. HUDhomestore.org. Yeah, or gov. And you can find them there, and those are fantastic. I've had a lot of success with HUD Home Store. So, if they're trying to make you pay for it, that isn't the right one. It is completely free. They're sneaky. A lot of websites, so they'll name their website HUD Home Store .ngc or something like that. But it's go to HUDhomestore.org. And then you'll be able to, this is the website, and you should not have to pay 1 red cent to look at those houses. So MH08 says, South Dakota is one of the 4 states my employer won't allow me to move to. Wow. 4 states. Yep. Pats fan 8057, go Pats, says, what do you think about Texas trying to eliminate property taxes? We've talked about this. This is okay, but it can't. The thing is they have penciled this out, and in order to make it work, they were saying the sales tax would be 23% in order to make it work. I think it's one of those things that, like, it gets politicians' name in the papers, it makes for good headlines, but it's not plausible. It's not feasible. It's kind of like saying, we're gonna make things. Groceries are going to be cheaper tomorrow. And, there's other mechanisms and engines in the work that, even though you say this, you have to make it up somehow. You can't just say it stops tomorrow, because those roads still going to need repaired. How are you going to offset that? The money's got to come from somewhere.
Yep. So I'm going to offer a little bit of color to that, because they were trying to do the same thing here in Florida. What's interesting about Florida is because we are such a tourism generated or tourism fueled state, the overwhelming majority of our sales taxes are paid by transient tourists. Okay. So first of all, our sales tax burden is borne primarily by non-Floridians. So speaking selfishly as a Floridian, if I could transfer more of that tax burden onto the sales tax, that's a win for me. But one of the things that I just bristle against as somebody who believes in private property and liberty, and that, you never own your home. When there's a property tax in place, you could be the type of people like my parents were, who didn't go on vacations. They worked overtime. They paid off their house early. And guess what? They're only a couple of tax payments away from losing that whole thing, versus my aunt and uncle, who lavishly spent themselves into debt. They keep taking out home equity loans against their house, and they're equally as insecure in their house as my parents are. So I think one of the nice things about it.
What if they offset it like this? If you're over the age of 65, or you've paid off your mortgage after like 45 years, then you don't have to pay property tax.
I'll take anything
that way.
I will take anything. Yes, absolutely. If 100%. I guess what I'm saying is I'm also one of those. So I'll be reasonable and say absolutely yes. If they would give that deal, I would take it in a heartbeat. But I'll also say that I don't believe that your right to, your private property rights expire or start at a certain age. You're either born with them or you don't have them at all. So one thing that does trouble me with, at least your homestead at home, you should not pay property taxes on. and if it has to be over a certain age or whatever, that's fine. If they have to raise taxes elsewhere to get it, that's fine. What I do know is if I skip buying a pair of Jordans because the sales tax pushes it over what I can afford, I can live with that more than me being of an advanced age and I can't afford the property tax hikes and I lose the house I lived in all these years. That's kind of where I look at it.
I think if they eliminated property tax for people over the age of 65, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, listen.
Tim, you got a question. Debbie
Oh my
Brady
gosh.
says, Tim, question. What is the advantages and disadvantages of dealing with listing your own home?
Oh, great question. Yeah. So obviously I wouldn't be here if I didn't think there were some advantages. Now I'll tell you right off the bat, there are in situations where trying to sell your own home would be like the dumbest thing you could possibly do. Okay. It's the same reason we don't go on YouTube and learn how to do orthopedic surgery and then do our own knee scope, right? Or pull our own teeth. There's a million reasons. So if your home is, in the midst of a judgment, if you're in the middle of a foreclosure, if you're in a divorce, if it's an estate sale, things like that, definitely not the right idea. Okay.
Mhm.
If you are somebody who is going to be screechingly offended, if you have a buyer come into your house and they tell you that they can't wait to rip out your kitchen cabinets, yes, don't do that. You don't have the right temperament if you can't handle people coming in and speaking about your house like it's a product, because ultimately that's what it is. And that's how you have to put yourself in that frame of mind. The third thing is if you find yourself in a scenario where you have a job that just is demanding, you can't respond to people on time, or you can't take time out of your day to open up your house to a complete stranger. If you're a cardiologist and you're making $400,000 a month, it's very silly for you to save the $30,000 in real estate commissions to go take time off that work. Now, with that said, let me tell you who it's great for. It's great for people who love DIY stuff. It's great for people who can stick to a project. So if you're the kind of person who will build a deck on a weekend to save a buck or two, and you also enjoy the process of learning, if you enjoy the process of challenging yourself to do something that people have told you cannot do. I have a neighbor down the street. He literally built an airplane. I mean, it's awesome. The guy's incredible. This is what drove me nuts. He built an airplane. He rebuilds transmissions in his garage for fun. And he hired a real estate agent to sell his house. I'm like, Bob, what are you doing? This is within your capabilities, I promise. So it really comes down to, number one, do you have the temperament to do it? Number two, is your house the type of an asset that you're okay letting go? And speaking of, as if it's a product, letting somebody else paint their future life on it without offending you. Thinking, oh, my kid took their first steps in this house. And number three, is it something that you yourself have the time to do? If so, then it could be a great option for you. We actually have a quiz on our website. If you go to foolprooffsbo.com/quiz, we actually have a temperament quiz there, and it'll give you a really straightforward answer, no BS answer about, hey, this is good for you, or no, I think we need to take you down the agent path. So I hope that helps.
Well, that was a lot. Tim, I want to say thank you so much for being a part of this stream today. I know that I asked you at the last minute. You guys, you would laugh. I got a spam email from him. And he's a friend of mine that I was like, hey, did you really want to be on my live stream? He's like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, well, come on anyway. If you guys want to have Tim on again so we can talk about for sale by owner, or just be a part of the stream with us, let us know in the comments section after this is published, or even right now. It'd be fantastic. If you guys need to get a hold of me, you can always go to my website, KristinaSmallhorn.com. Click on one of the pink links and you can get a hold of me. Eddie wanted to go ahead and show your website, and Tim.
I was going to say, that's not Kristina.
No, this is Tim's. No, that's
Tim.
I got it twisted for him. Yeah, Tim's got his own website there. So he's showing you all the stuff that you can do there. But I want to say thank you so much for you being a part of the stream. This will also be as a podcast. So if you want to share this with your friends, Tim, you can go to anywhere you listen to your podcast. Look for Kristina Smallhorn, Real Estate for Everyone. And this episode will be published live tomorrow. And you can share it with all your friends and family, Tim. And I would love to have you on again, especially if there's anything that comes in the news about selling your house. If their foreclosure rate comes up again, or people are in that foreclosure or thinking they're getting in that foreclosure process. Like, before you get there, Why don't you talk to Tim? See if maybe you can sell your house yourself. See if you can get out of that situation before you get in it. So, all right, everybody. I love you. Mean it. Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, moderators. And thank you to my channel members today. We had a few of you that were in there. I appreciate every single one of you. Look at there. Thank you, moderators. Look, there's Tim's stuff. Grab your free ebook. Yep.
Yeah, you're the best, Eddie. You're the best, Kristina. Thank you so much for having me on. And thanks, folks, for putting up with me.
You're the best, Tim. Are you kidding? I love your personality. All right, everybody. Bye. Love ya. Mean it.